How often have you heard someone say he acts just like his father, or she's dancing just like her aunt? She curses or he curses just like their father. And I when I was thinking about this session, I thought about this podcast. I thought about the words that Jesus said, "I do what my father does." Often we take on the personality of someone that we feel strongly about, someone we relate to, someone that we admire, um, someone that impresses us, often as children. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but when it comes to using our power for evil instead of good, when it comes to belittling others, when it comes to um, name calling and pushing and fighting and bickering and wars, because we want to take something from someone, or we want to prove that we're better than someone. That's when we have an issue. That's when we are not being or coming from the most loving part of ourselves. And this show, Create a Generational Love Cycle, it's not about religion. I didn't grow up um, religious. I grew up experiencing some painful, potentially painful events, something that I wasn't at that point, didn't know how I got into it, and as a child, and didn't know what could happen to me in the future. But I called on something that was higher than me, that I knew that was out there, that loved me and that wanted the best for me. I was surrounded by I daily probably heard people being name calling, called outside their name. Um, just kind of people doing, mischievous stuff as children, or even, parents using different words, calling children outside their name, whooping children in the street, cursing at children. Just saw a lot of stuff where, rivers and rivers of anger and rage embedded deeply in people's faces, and the howling from their voices. I knew that life wasn't supposed to be like that. It wasn't supposed to be a struggle. But as I have gotten much older than I was at the time, and just really learning about this generational cycle of pain. And as you know, if you've been listening to me, it's not about the physical pain so much as it is the emotional and mental pain. There are a lot of people, like my husband told me during COVID, Tamika, there are a lot of people that are hurting. And so one of the things that I've been tackling as I made my way back to this podcast, after moves and really getting settled here back on the West Coast, is I started talking about relationships and how what I see is three levels. One is the relationship with the image, or who the higher power, the relationship with the higher power. So who you believe that created this world. Where are you from? Number two, relationship with self. And number three, relationship with others. And so that will then branch out from spouses, significant others, your parents, your friends, coworkers, employees, employers, etc. And everything comes back to, who do you think you are? And so my question today is, who do you think you are? Because your answer to that, if you say, I'm just like my father, I'm just like my mother, I'm just like my sister, when you my older sister, whoever it may be, my aunt, my great grandfather, whoever it is that you respond with, then often your actions and your thoughts will come from that. Because nothing, as my mom would tell us, nothing happens overnight. As children, we have fertile soil. We're very impressionable. We see people doing things, we see people getting away with it, we see people having fun, and we choose to become like them, right? We choose, at least for a significant part of our personality, to say, this is who I am. And as Jesus, is quoted in the Bible, that he said, whatever, what I do, what my Father does, what I see my Father doing. And what we saw Jesus doing, the story in the Bible, was that he was coming to set things straight. He was healing people. He was teaching people, restoring life, restoring health, eyesight, versus where you see people kind of looking down on others. We saw the Pharisees and how they portrayed them, and looking down on others. And we see that in today's life. We see times where people are making comments, lewd comments, making just false claims about people, name calling. And it's not about making an excuse for them, but it's about realizing, there's a verse that, get understanding. It's about realizing that on the flip side, that they felt like they could relate to that person. And that's why they're behaving like that person. Who what we say and what we do comes from who we think we are the most. And when I do that, when I talk about that, we can belittle, we can call people evil, we can try to categorize them like the world typically does, about race, sex, gender, etc. We can try to do that for people that we don't understand why they're doing what they're doing. We can try to categorize them as evil. But I love this quote that I got from reading James Allen, when he says that when a man is understood, it becomes impossible or hard to condemn him. And when we it's like you're walking that thin line, because you may not understand why people are doing a certain thing. Why are they doing such evil acts? And it's often something that is ingrained in them, something that has been sown for years. And no matter how much we try to even categorize them more or say evil things, it basically, when we do that, we're feeding into that persona. Versus, as you know, when we talk about even including the law of attraction, the more that we give attention to something, the more that we label something, the more that we get angry and send out these angry thoughts and confusion thoughts into the world, because individual consciousness feeds collective consciousness. The more that we do that, the more we feed into that persona. Well, what do we do when we have people? So we're talking about one side, when we have people that are doing things that we feel like are unbecoming, right? Unbecoming of their highest version. I often think that we have to pay attention to our thoughts, because if what we think creates our reality, and this is the whole root, this is the root of what create a generational love cycle is about. Create a generational love cycle is that if we get to the root of what is causing this, yes, there are seeds that have grown in that person, but we continue to feed that, water that, by giving attention to it, by adding fearful thoughts, confusive thoughts, angry thoughts, bitterness and resentful thoughts. Instead of us, because often when you hear about the law of attraction, you hear about making your wealth and riches and having an abundant life, and picturing your car and your vehicle, your house and your career. But in using that power to actually send thoughts of peace, of comfort, of, if you're praying, into praying, which I am, praying for our leaders, praying that they will see the truth, praying, yes, that and I've used that even for my family members, and I've seen positive results for praying for the truth to be shown to them, praying for anybody, not just leaders, family members. I've prayed for family members, praying for them that the truth is unveiled to them. Pray that they will realize what it is that they're doing, and they will choose to change their thoughts to a more healthier thoughts, more positive thoughts, more life sustaining thoughts versus life draining thoughts. Meditating on sending vibes of peace, energy of peace out into the world. And I'm not saying if you have been doing that, but it's sometimes you can really feel like, what the heck is going on? Like, uh, during a time where you have so much divisiveness, and just like I said, people that are saying things that you're just like, it just shocks you. It's just shocking, and leave no words. But what we have to remember is that we too can impact the world, and the way that we can do that is with our thoughts in the form of prayer, thoughts in the form of meditation, thoughts in the form of energy, sending energy. um, and it all starts individually. That's how we actually change the world. You hear that, look at the man in the mirror, with Michael Jackson's song, and, always come to you first. But coming to you in the essence of, how am I contributing to what is going on in the world? Because if we stop sending thoughts to something, as you know, even with the law of attraction, what happens? It dissolves, it goes away. And so, whoever it is that you're thinking of, it could be the president, it could be your father, your mother, your sister, anyone that you feel like have said things that are hurtful to you. Maybe during this holiday, you don't feel like going around them or being around them. Maybe you feel like you have no choice, and you are going to be around them. We don't have to feed into it, because sometimes we can get really angry, and we can tell people what we mean, what we feel. We can use profanity, we can yell, scream, but just know that when we are doing that, what are we feeding? What are we consistently giving energy to? And it's so easy, it's so tempting to, yes, want to tell people a piece of your mind. But I always say, take the road of the greatest resistance. And the road of greatest resistance is keeping self control, is keeping um, your mind at the heart of the matter. We can look at the words, we can look at the actions, we can hear the words and the actions, but to really see someone's heart. Because how can you love yourself if you're hurting other people? Right? So when you think about your past, you think about people you've been through, uh, you've had relationships with, and you feel like they've hurt you in some way, some form. It's with them, because as some personalities, someone they've felt like they can relate to. This is who they've decided to be, and they can have consistently fed that personality throughout life, and other people have fed into it. Because some people think, if for instance, if they saw their father being yelled at, but he still got what he wanted, they feel like, well, if you yell at me, I'm still going to get what I wanted. So you're feeding into that persona again. So just like you've heard that the best way to let out a fire is to throw water on it. The best way um, to decrease, anger, is with soft words. And so, just like with thoughts, is not allowing yourself to continue to feed something that isn't working, right? And to take on the action of, who do I want to be like? Do I want to be someone who's loving? Do I want to be someone who believes in possibilities? Do I want to be someone with an abundant life? Do I want to have joy and happiness in my life? Because if you're feeding to ill behaviors, if you're sending thoughts of confusion and anger and bitterness, then you're doing the exact opposite of what it is that you really want. And I said that, I don't put this as far as religion, but one of the things my mom told me, because I grew up believing that this infinite spirit, this infinite intelligence, great spirit, I refer to it in my manuscript, cultivate, as the master gardener. My mom would tell us, her children, that God is faithful, God is just, you know, the importance of keeping a pure heart, the importance of self control. In the Bible, it tells us that, God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and self control. And so when I read the Bible, and when I talk about verses, I speak about anything that's going to lift up. That's what I try to focus on with this podcast. So I focus on anything that I've read. I've read the Bible several times. I've read James Allen's. I've read Louise Hay, several works of her. I've read Wallace Waddles just recently, the Master Key System. I've read Dr. Wayne Dyer. I've quoted many of them, and all of them, what they have in common is not just about religion, but being the best version of yourselves, being feeding off and giving love. Dr. Wayne Dyer said to be Christ-like. When I think about Jesus, I think about that in the Bible. It never said anything about that he was about religion. He was of spirit and of flesh. And that's what I see ourselves of. We are of spirit and of flesh. And I believe that God, or this infinite spirit, is about love. I believe there are laws in place, cause and effect, that if we do certain things, this is what happens. But I believe that's about an opportunity for us to reflect the truth, to unfold the universe, this power that we have within us, and also to be more like ourselves. To be more as an opportunity to really express the trueness of who we are as spirits clothed in human form. And so when I look at the opposite side of that, and I think about life, and you don't know when you'll be here and when you won't be here. But it's like, what do you really want to spend time doing? Do you want to spend time feeding hateful acts? Or do you want to spend more time being your true self, being more of what you're made from? And I believe that we're all made from love. I believe there is an innocence about us. I believe there is a beauty about us. I believe there's an awesomeness about us. I believe that we have gifts, talents, and abilities that we probably don't even know about. I believe there's so much that we can do with our mind, as we have seen, the inventions, houses, roads, street. And when you really think about the awesomeness of humanity working with spirit and creation, what do you really want to spend time doing? And so what I do want to pose is that, and I've said it on a different podcast, but I also want to reiterate, who do you think you are? Because who do you think you are will feed into who you act like, and who you think like, and what you think other people are. It feeds into how you take care of your body, eating habits, how you exercise, how you rest. If you really want to take care of what you've been given a gift, that starts feeding into what food you're going to cook, what food you're going to eat. It's not about being just, eating healthy foods all of the time, but majority of the time, you're going to want to take care of what you have, because that's what love does. Love protects, it perseveres, it doesn't fail, it hopes, and I believe in that. When I think about the definition of love, I again, it's all about taking, what can I take the good. That's one of the things I wrote about in one of my manuscripts, Compass, is taking the good and leaving the bad. you know I've read portions of the Quran. I've read the Torah. Again, there are other books that I've read and will continue to read books. And it's about what resonates with you, what deep in your heart resonates with you. What effect are you having on other people? Are they crying? Are they upset? Do they feel unworthy? Do they feel rejected? Or do they feel energized in your presence? Do they feel love? Do they feel happiness? Do they feel joy? Because whatever you're giving out is comes from who you think you are, right? So it just reverberates. It goes right back to your image. And as we prepare for the last part of this year, as we prepare for another major holiday, Christmas, as we prepare for New Year, when you think about your goal settings, when you think about, losing weight or gaining weight or exercising more, it becomes less of a goal and more of a conviction that the reason why I'm doing this is because I think I'm great. I believe I'm special. I believe I am here to represent the truth. I believe that I'm joy. And you just start, doing the things that you need to do day by day, eating healthier. You start being more conscientious about what foods you eat, what TV shows you watch, um, what things you say, the time, how you spend your time with your children, with your spouse, the work that you do. Everything is a reflection, not just of you, but of who you think you are. So I'll leave you with those thoughts. I was got home. It's been a heck of a day, but trying to stay committed because believing that I have a reason for being here. I have words to speak. I have truth to unfold. And what I say to you, I say to myself. And I think that's one of the greatest things about being a speaker or being an educator in some form is that no matter what you say and do, it always boomerangs back to you. It always feeds into who you think you are. Okay, so this is Tamika Chambers with Create a Generational Love Cycle. I'm going to stop there, and I hope that this podcast has been helpful to you. If you feel like someone could benefit from this podcast, please share it. I definitely reach out to me. My email, tamikaj@aim.com. For any comments that you have, I appreciate those. And happy holidays to you. Know that you can make this lifetime better. You can make it much better than what it is by changing your thoughts, because that's how we change. That's how we change ourselves. That's how we change the world, is by changing our minds, changing what we allow to feed into them. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.